welcome to Gillian. Gillian is going to be sharing with us today what has been her biggest challenge, how she's overcome that, and how that impacts on what she does today. Hello and welcome.
Thanks, Bridget. So beautiful to be here and such an honor. Thank you for inviting me. And I've loved the previous conversations that you've had, the real conversations, which I love that. So when you posed the question for me, I was like, wow, okay, I've got to think of one big thing. So after sifting through a few things, I've decided to share on, I think, what is most probably the biggest challenge that I've had in my lifetime. Well, in the more recent lifetime. And that is 4 years ago, I took my 91-year-old mother into care for her. And at the time, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have a number of businesses that I run, and I'm independent, I'm single, I didn't have family. And I made a conscious choice to do it. And I think I underestimated how much of a challenge it was going to be. And I had kind of an idea of where I thought the rubs would be and where I'd navigate and where I wouldn't. But gosh, I was blindsided by a number of things. So the biggest challenge overall was that big adjustment. And I think the biggest takeaway and the learning from it it's been 4 years now, and it's a continual learning. And I would say the biggest thing is to have surrendered to the circumstances and understand a very clear definition and differentiation between what's my journey and what's her journey. And I relate to this in life hugely with clients, with people I coach, with friends I journey with. It's like, what is my stuff and what is their stuff? Mm-hmm. What am I responsible for? What are they responsible for? And being 91, she's not going to change. No more work to be done. And I've really had to surrender to that. I've really had to find a way to let go of her being any different than what she is. And that's a huge lesson to learn in life, I think, generally. And for me to be able to look around at all my circumstances and go, they are what they are. And I surrender to exactly how they are, and how they are is exactly how they're meant to be right now. So I think the biggest takeaway has been that, and I bring that into my daily life and my business life on a number of levels. Last year, I had the honor of being part of an initiative called Soul Circus, and that's another whole story. But part of that initiative, there were 42 of us that were put together for 21 days. Nobody knew each other. It's a little bit like the opposite of Survivor, like in a good way. And the biggest thing I learned there was staying focused on the essence and being flexible with a form. And this, I think, is the biggest takeaway that I've learned through this journey with Mom, is what is the essence? And the essence is I want to provide her a beautiful final chapter. And it's not really up to me to know exactly how that's going to look. And I'd use the same when I embark on a project. I use the same when I embark on my own dreams. And I come from a background of being a strong alpha female. I was in a high career position. So I like to have all my ducks in the right rows or facing the right direction. And this year has been more like squirrels at a rave party. So it's been a little bit about just going, well, what can I do with that? And how and where does that fit in? So surrender and knowing what the essence is, and then navigating that with what it is at that moment, I would say which will be the biggest gift.
So who are the kind of people who come to you? Who is your typical type of client?
So I have a range. So the range is, I have clients, my biggest client that I work with are a combination of private equity clients and pharmaceutical companies that are international. And I do the traditional HR work there. So if you want to look at that one side of the spectrum, and the other side of the spectrum is I do a lot of retreats, I work with women and coaching that is much more life and spiritually based. And I find a way to merge that in. So when I'm in an organization, I bring in authenticity, I bring in groundedness, I bring in vulnerability and courageous conversations. And when I'm coaching on the spiritual spectrum, I bring in the groundedness of having a plan and knowing what your essence is and what is your purpose. So I attract a range of people. And ultimately, I think I attract people who ask the question, how can I deepen my relationship with life? And that's ultimately the question I asked when I left corporate, was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. It's
When did you leave?
Where or when?
When? Like how many years ago?
I left in 2003. So 17 years ago.
Wow, okay, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Was there something big that happened? Or did you just see the light?
There were most probably three events that happened. And I still remember the moment I made the decision. It was these three separate, somewhat non-connected. If I look back now, they're obviously all connected. But then it was three separate. And I remember standing on the balcony of my huge big corner office. You know, I was a director in a multinational company. You got these huge offices. And I was standing on the balcony of my big office. Thank goodness we were in an office park, and I was watching the sunset. And I just knew there was more. And I had no plan. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have another job lined up. But there was something deep inside of me that was a knowing, I guess you can call it that. Yeah.
I think a lot of people battle to connect to that. And I think something that really resonated, which drew me to you, was that story when you were by the stone hut or the stone house, and you were in the forest, and you were talking about nature and how nature is so much like life and spring and the seasons. And you shared this beautiful story, and that resonated. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. That resonated with me so much, because there is so much more, and we have no control, and we have to surrender, and we have to let go. And it's like, when we choose to learn, that is up to us. But as soon as we do, the magic happens. And until we get to that point, life is a struggle. It's a struggle, you know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I just love that your message, and so thank you very much for being part of this.